Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. We're powered by The Athletic and by CLNS Media. Today on the show, I always have, all of these bloggers and all of these writers that come on the show and talk to me. Today is no different. I have another blogger, another writer who has come on to talk to me. Except this one is, has kind of a more high-powered position within the basketball world. It's Hornets general manager Rich Cho. Rich, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing?
I am doing great. I was pumped to see that you have started a food blog. It is called Big Time Bites. You can follow it at Big Time Bites on Twitter. The concept is awesome. So essentially, Rich, being a general manager who came up in the basketball industry, has developed a scouting report system for food as he goes out on the road and goes to all of the different cities that he has to for his job. I am a huge fan of it. I think it's awesome. As someone who is always searching when I'm out on the road for food, this is great. So I've heard for a while basically that you've been a foodie. You hear it in league circles, and we didn't have a relationship up until this week essentially. But how did you kind of get into this food? Would you call it an obsession? I don't know. Would you?
I guess that's one word for it. I just kind of started as I started doing more travel over the years, just started branching out, eating at different places. And really one thing I really enjoyed was trying to find a hole in the walls and not your mainstream chain restaurants. When I'm out on the road, I could certainly eat at the hotel. And sometimes I do because if I'm really busy, I'll just order room service or eat at the hotel. But a lot of times I like to get out and about and experience the city and the culture, and I don't sightsee or anything like that. I'm really just looking for a good meal. And, as I traveled more, I would always ask people in the office and around the league, hey, where can you get a good burger in, whatever city I'm going to? Or where can you get good sushi here? Or what are your favorite restaurants here? And so as I did that, I started getting more of a, like a little notebook of places to go to or things in my head at least. And then that's kind of how it started. And then, then people started asking me, hey, where would you go here? And where would you go there? And what's your favorite spots in this city and that city? And then it just, and then I kind of realized, hey, maybe I should start something online, like a food blog, and create a database. And so that's kind of what we've done, and it's been kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that you've put a good amount of work into this. How long do you think it's taken you to build up all of the food that is on there? Is that over the last year? Is it over the last 5 years or 6 months or something like that?
I would say probably the last couple of years. The model for this website, I think, is different than any other site. When I thought about creating a food blog, one thing I wanted to really do was make it different than any other blog, because there's so many food blogs out there, and I felt like, if I'm going to do something, I want to make it different and kind of stand out. So the number one, the blog has a sports theme to it. So for example, all my reviews are called scouting reports, and the difference between another distinguishing feature between this site and other sites is that visitors to the site can put in their own scouting reports. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a hybrid of my reports as well as visitor scouting reports. And so it's almost like kind of a Yelp type environment, and then as well as my reports. But the a couple other distinguishing features are, one, it's only good stuff. So that's why it's called Big Time Bites. And if you go to other sites, there's a lot of negative reviews.
Yeah.
And that's not what this is about. It's just good stuff. So I might eat out for 6 straight days, and I might not have a meal that I feel like merits a Big Time Bite. So I won't put that on the site. So even I got 5 different ratings in this rating system that I have, and even the lowest rating is a really good dish. So the rating system is a rotation, starter, all-star, franchise, and Hall of Fame. So like a Hall of Fame dish is something that it's like a player. It's like the best of the best, regardless of cuisine or category, and it's something you have to eat, that's something that should be on your bucket list before you die. So that's kind of the rubric for it, and I have a different definition for each rating, and then also have a different definition for different price levels and things like that. So when people put in their visitor scouting reports, then you're all working off the same framework.
Yeah, I love this idea of rotation through Hall of Fame ratings. I was actually going to ask about that, like having nothing below a rotation player. A rotation player is pretty good to have around on your team. So it's good that you kind of cleared that up for me, that it's only for positive foods that you eat as opposed to negative foods that you eat. So how much work have you put into this baby? Like it is seriously an impressive website. Like I know that it looks like just this little, white page, but then you actually click on the link. It has a great photo, like a big photo of the thing. It's got like all of these rating systems. It's a really nice template. How much work have you put into this?
I've put a fair amount of thought into it. But it's taken a while, and it's like I might have thought about something and then, not even think about the site or a potential food blog for 3 months, and then think about it again because, it's taken a while to get it up and going. But it's just one of those things where I've always wanted to do it and would have thoughts here and there and then just never got around to it. And I unveiled it over the weekend, and we've gotten some pretty positive reviews so far. The one other thing that I want to say is different than this and some other sites out there is this site is dish based instead of restaurant based.
Yeah.
So you'll see pictures of actual dishes. And you're reviewing the dish. You might say something about the restaurant, of course, but other sites will be more restaurant-based instead of dish-based. So, which I think is nice because a lot of times you might be looking for a certain particular thing that you're looking for, that you want to eat, like say a lobster roll. You're up in Boston. Hey, I want a lobster roll. Where can I get the best lobster roll? And
yeah,
as we build the database up, then there'll be more information there and more access for users.
Yeah, but the other cool thing about it is that you do have like a restaurant database as well. Just you click on the side here, and it does have a restaurants tab. So like your most reviewed restaurant so far is Kindred in Davidson, North Carolina. It's nice to at least have that one thing, that you even have something for everyone. Yep.
Yeah. I've got a pretty wide palette, so I like hole in the walls to fine dining, burgers to sushi, steaks, you name it. I eat it all basically.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Like how did you kind of develop this love of food over your lifetime? Like, I'm sure it's not just a thing that has started over the last 5 years as you've been a high level executive in the NBA.
Yeah, I think just, kind of living in different parts of the country, East Coast, West Coast, the middle of the country in OKC, and just having the background I have and experiencing different cultures, traveling different places around the world and experiencing different cultures here and there. And then just having friends of different diversities and my brothers are big eaters too, so we have fun eating together, and it's just something that's kind of developed over time, and a lot of the guys I've met through the NBA are big eaters as well, and like to eat different things, and so I've gained a lot of information from those guys as well.
So I believe you're just like 50 years old, 51 years old or so, right?
Yeah, 51.
And you eat all of this awesome exotic food. You say, I believe that you've said before, like you're not like a crazy like guy who works out all the time, but you're still like in pretty damn good shape for being 50 years old. How do you stay in shape, especially when you're on the road and have a billion things to do with basketball, and you have this food desire to go out and test all of this, awesome food that you can find? How do you stay in shape while you're, doing all of these different things that would really kind of not be analogous to staying in shape?
Well, one, I think, luckily my folks gave me some good genes as far as metabolism.
Yeah.
That definitely helps. I still play a lot of tennis and hoops. But one thing I try to do, I don't really watch what I eat that much, but there are certain things that I try to, stay away from a little bit. Things like bread. I don't really drink alcohol. I don't smoke. I don't eat a lot of cheese, and I don't drink milk. So I don't know if that's really like a recipe for staying slim, but I think it works for me. And I don't even know how technical or non-technical that is, but it's something that's worked for me. So I just try to stay with it. And then, who knows, in 5 years, I might weigh a lot more, but right now it's working okay. I weigh about, I would say about 3 pounds more than I did 20 years ago in law school. So
that is insane. So you've been on the road here for like 20 years in NBA circles at this stage. What is the best food that you have eaten in those 20 years? Can you give me a restaurant, an exact dish? Like, are you that precise with it?
Yeah, well, I think it depends, what cuisine you're talking about. My favorite sushi place is in Las Vegas at a place called Kabuto. Mm-hmm. It's off the strip a little bit. It's a little traditional Japanese place that serves incredible sushi. My favorite Burmese place, there's a couple of them, but there's a place called Burma Superstar in San Francisco that's terrific. It's owned by a guy named Desmond Tan, and he's a guy that really cares about ingredients in his food and customer service, and that's why his restaurants have been so successful. But that's called Burma Superstar. And then there's a Burmese place in L.A., which is at a lady's house.
Really?
Yeah, and I actually absolutely love this place. And she's open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, and I love it so much that she cooks for me and FedExes is here. So that's definitely one of my favorite places in the country. I also love going to Boston because there's a few terrific restaurants there, like Neptune Oyster House. And they have what I consider the best lobster roll in the country. And then another great seafood place called Ostra. So and Charleston's a great town too for incredible food.
So
Kindred in Davidson, the place that you had mentioned, that's actually one of my favorite restaurants in the country as well.
So I've two questions here. The first one is, have you been to a place called Ichiza in Las Vegas? It's like a little like strip place off the strip, like in a strip mall off the strip.
Ichiza, no.
Yeah, it's like this little Japanese place on the second floor of a strip mall off the strip. It's awesome.
Oh no, I haven't. I'll have to write that down. What you should do is put in a scouting report.
Seriously, I'm gonna have to. The problem is so I went with like Zach Harper and Ethan Strauss and Ian Carmel and a few other guys. Charlie Widows, who works at the 76ers now. We got it felt like 20 different dishes. So I don't know like what any of the dishes are called, because Rob Mahoney from Sports Illustrated was ordering for us, and I was like, sure, yeah, just get that. So I'm gonna have to like find out like what all of these little dishes are and definitely input them into the website, because Ichiza is top notch. It is awesome.
I'll have to try it.
The second question I had for you is, what is your favorite cuisine? You kind of mentioned a lot of different Asian foods. You mentioned some seafood. What is your favorite type of food?
I'm might sound kind of lame, but I'm partial to my ethnicity, which is Burmese. Mm-hmm. And just because I grew up eating it, and nothing like home food. But other than Burmese, I would say sushi is my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Last question here on the food. What is the worst recommendation you have gotten from anyone?
Oh boy, I've gotten some bad ones for sure. That's a hard one. I try to put those out of my memory, but I would say in general, I'm not a big fan of the chain restaurants.
Uh-huh.
That would be the main thing. Just I'm not that big of a fan of the chain restaurants. Yeah, I think it's okay if a place has a few locations, but in general, the national chains or bigger chains, I'm not that big a fan of.
Man, one of the chances to call out one of your buddies in the industry for giving you one of these terrible recommendations, and you're passing on it. Shows how nice of a guy you are and how good of a friend you are. Oh, man. Let's go ahead and talk about your team, the team that you are the general manager of, the Charlotte Hornets. You guys, win 48 games in 2016. You regress by 12 wins this year, down to 36. What is the biggest thing that you can point to as to why you think that you guys end up going from a playoff team to outside of the playoff picture this year?
Yeah, I think there are a few things. One, we didn't have as much depth as the previous year. We lost Jeremy Lin, we lost Courtney Lee, we lost Al Jefferson, and so I think our depth and overall bench play was down, and that's something we tried to address this offseason by picking up Dwight Howard and then got Michael Carter-Williams in free agency. We got Malik Monk in the draft, Dwayne Bacon in the draft. So, I think from that standpoint, our bench will be better this upcoming year, and overall depth will be better. And then the other thing that really hurt us last year was injuries. And I know every team, has a lot of injuries, but with our depth issue, I think it kind of amplified it even more.
You guys also went like something, I think it was like 0-9 in one possession games, or like 0-9 in games decided by like 4 points. Like, do you think that that's just kind of an anomaly? Like, do you think that there's something up with your team that, you do continue to lose these close games? What do you kind of, attribute the lack of success in close games to? I
do think that was an anomaly. I think, previous year, we were a lot better in close games, and sometimes luck just doesn't roll your way, I don't know what it was, but I think that just increasing our overall depth, and then our rim protection and shot blocking with Dwight Howard, I think will be improved this upcoming year.
So, you guys come into the offseason, like you said, it does seem like depth was your main goal in terms of just kind of increasing your depth. Obviously didn't have a whole lot of salary cap room to necessarily play with after last offseason. So how difficult is it to kind of work on the margins, especially in a market in today's NBA where, everyone is getting paid exorbitant figures? Like, it seems like every rotation player now is getting $8 to $10 million a year.
Yeah, no, I think it makes it, hard if you want to stay under the luxury tax, which most teams do. But, that's why we do a lot of scouting and a lot of background work on players, and it's just part of the process. I think, I think it makes it hard also when you're in a smaller market like Charlotte. But at the same time, we're not New York, we're not LA, we're not South Beach and things like that. But at the same time, I think players are starting to realize that Charlotte does have a lot to offer. A few years ago, we were able to attract Al Jefferson in free agency. Then the following summer, we even though Utah matched, Gordon Hayward signed an offer sheet here. And then after Utah matched, we went a different direction. And even though it didn't work out, Lance Stevenson signed a free agent contract here. And then a couple years ago, Jeremy Lin signed a free agent contract here. So I think players are starting to realize, hey, Charlotte is a good destination. It's a great city, and I think the future is bright here.
So you mentioned the Gordon Hayward restricted free agency deal that you guys signed. Can you kind of take me through the process of, trying to get a restricted free agent and kind of, finding a way to make it as less palatable for the opposing team to match as you can? Because, Charlotte, you guys are a fairly large reason as to why Gordon Hayward is no longer a member of the Utah Jazz, because you guys ended up giving him that player option year after 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do in the contracts. A player option, trade kicker, and things like that. Some of the things of that sort, but. It's not that often that teams don't match an offer sheet, and because teams don't want to lose a player for nothing, and so it is rare when teams don't match. But Gordon's a great player, and he had great success in Utah, and unfortunately he wound up coming to the East. I was hoping he'd stay West, and I want all these guys to stay West and go West.
So before I get to that part of it, I do have just kind of like one more question real quick on these restricted free agency deals. Like, does the idea of tying up your cap space for 2 or 3 days ever come into play here? When Gordon signed with you guys, obviously your cap space was tied up for 3 days. What is the value of that over the course of the crazy period of free agency where it seems like every deal is getting done within that 4-day moratorium or 6-day moratorium, and then the 2 days after?
Yeah, I don't think it's as much of a factor as it used to be. It used to be back in the day 7 days, and so it's cut down a lot more. So I think it's a lot better for both parties, really. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's that much of a factor.
Yeah. So you get to this Eastern Conference point now. You see all of these players leaving the East, like, do your ears just perk up when you hear that? Like you see a tweet across Woj's stream, like Paul George is going to Oklahoma City. Like, how pumped do you guys get as an organization, as opposing organization, really, when you see stars fleeing the Eastern Conference and all going west?
Oh yeah, I love it. I'd be lying if I didn't say I wanted, the better players to go west, because we'll be playing more Eastern Conference teams, obviously, and so. But at the same time, those things go in cycles, and there could be trades, or next summer free agents could come east. So it all goes in cycles and evens out at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go to the draft. You guys end up taking Malik Monk at number 12. Be honest with me. Like, did you really think there was a chance Malik Monk was going to be on the board at number 12 when you guys were picking?
Well, we we were ecstatic to get Malik, and when as the weeks led down to draft week, we felt like there might be a slight chance that Malik would be available when we pick, and in one or two different scenarios. And when we were watching him during the year, we felt like, oh well, we got no chance to get this guy, because we felt like he was a really good player, and he went 11 to us, not 12.
11, sorry.
But as the draft got closer, we felt like, hey, you know what? Because of X, Y, and Z, and different needs of teams, and the way the lottery fell, and the draft order came out, we felt like right around draft week, the week of the draft, we felt like, hey, there's a chance that he might fall. And so we actually set up a Skype call the day before the draft with Malik, because he never came in to work out for us individually, because he didn't think that he'd be there at 11. We didn't think he'd be there at 11. So he actually didn't work out for us individually, but we did set up a Skype call because we got an indication that he might be available. And like I said, we were ecstatic when he was there at 11.
Where did you guys have him on your team personal board?
Oh, we had him pretty high. We had him very high, and we just felt with his explosiveness, his scoring ability, and his shooting, that he'd be a great fit for us. And we did a lot of background work on him as well, and everything checked out positive, and we're just thrilled to have him on the team.
So you mentioned that you guys didn't have Malik in for a pre-draft workout. How much do those pre-draft workouts, kind of sway your thinking? You guys have obviously been out seeing these kids play throughout the course of a 5-month college basketball season. How much does the singular pre-draft workout matter to you guys?
It's just another part of the process. I don't think you want to put a ton of emphasis on it, but at the same time, it's a big part of the process, and you factor it into the equation. When a guy does come to work out for you, you typically take him out for dinner the night before, and especially if it's a high focus player, and then you go for him as a person as well, and so that's part of it as well, just when he comes in. But it's definitely a part of the process. But I don't think you put all your eggs on the workout as well.
Right. Like a lot of the people that I talk to throughout the industry, they say that exactly what you said, right? Going out, taking him out for dinner and meeting with him and having these players meet with your coaches and maybe like try and like draw plays out on like a whiteboard or something like that. That's the more important stuff than the on-floor work. Would you kind of feel that way as well?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because, during the year you're seeing a lot of games, but and you're also seeing practices, so you get a good feel for the player. And then when a guy comes in to work out, there shouldn't be a whole lot that surprises you.
Mm-hmm.
The interview and sitting down with the player and things of that sort, that stuff becomes important.
So the last draft question I have for you kind of goes back to the 2015 draft. There's a rumor out there, obviously, that you guys were offered 4 first-round picks from the Boston Celtics for Frank Kaminsky, or for the pick that you guys used on Frank Kaminsky. What would you say to those reports that kind of have you guys turning down that deal?
Yeah, well, I would say that, we had a lot of deals throughout the course of the draft, and I think sometimes stuff is reported correctly, sometimes it's not reported correctly. At the end of the day, we're really happy with Frank, and we think Frank Kaminsky is going to be a really good player for us.
Kind of piggybacking off of that more generally, though, when you're actually on the clock and you get offered something from a team, how tough is it to, kind of make a decision basically on the fly? Because a lot of the time you have this, you have everything kind of set, you have your board set, and then kind of chaos gets thrown into your decision making, right? How tough is that?
No, it's definitely tough, but we do a lot of homework and prep work for the draft, and we have a lot of contingencies up there on our boards, and then and so a lot of times we'll have talked to teams beforehand,
mm-hmm.
So something not coming at us, totally out of the blue. So we'll have thought about things. And then we also throw a lot of stuff out to other teams and make offers that way too. So you're making big decisions on the fly, but at the same time, you also have a lot of information at your disposal.
Yep.
And have done a lot of prep work. So, if you've done your homework, nothing is really that much of a surprise.
Yeah. You've mentioned the Dwight Howard trade a couple of times throughout this podcast already. I was a big fan of the acquisition personally. I think that, not to disparage what you guys gave up, but I think that, getting Dwight Howard for that package made a lot of sense. And, you guys ended up making the deal, so I think it's probably pretty fair to say that you agree. But, what ended up kind of being the swaying factor for you guys on deciding that this was the direction you wanted to go?
Well, one of the things that we were really trying to address in the offseason was rim protection, and overall depth and some physicality, and we felt like Dwight addressed all 3 of those needs. He's only 31 years old. I think he's got a number of good years left. And Steve Clifford, our head coach, had worked with Dwight before in LA and Orlando, so I think that really helped having familiarity with Dwight. So we're excited about having Dwight, and he still averaged a double-double last year, and so we feel like he's got a lot of good years left in him.
Yeah, you bring up the previous relationship with Steve Clifford. I mean, Dwight is a guy that obviously in the past has had a lot of baggage, whether it's fair or not. How much of a role did Coach Clifford kind of play in getting you guys in the front office comfortable with making a move like this?
Yeah, I mean, he played a big role because I think anytime, you're trading for a player, it's an unknown unless you have somebody on your staff that's worked closely with the player or knows the player extremely well. And Coach Clifford does know Dwight very well and has a familiarity with, and vice versa. Dwight is very comfortable with Coach Clifford, so we were very comfortable from that standpoint, and felt good trade for us.
So you guys end up signing Michael Carter-Williams as well, just like a part of your mid-level exception, if I remember correctly. What intrigued you about Michael Carter-Williams as a signing?
Well, one, when we were looking for a backup point guard, ideally we were looking for somebody with some size that could play with and without Kemba.
Yep.
And at 6'6", Michael Carter's got great size. He's had a couple off years relative to his rookie year when he was Rookie of the Year. But one thing our coaching staff and Coach Clifford does a great job is trying to get the best out of the most out of each and every player. You saw that a couple years ago when Jeremy Lin came in, and he had an off year in LA, and he came here. Coach put him in the best position to succeed, and Jeremy had a great year here, and parlayed that into a big deal in Brooklyn. So we feel like Michael Carter will give us a nice boost off the bench.
Mm-hmm. Kemba Walker made a big leap this year, obviously, toward all-star status finally. What do you think the driving force behind that improvement was on the floor?
I would say the driving force is really his work ethic and his hunger to be a great player. He's always been a guy that's been a winner. Won in high school, he won in college. Winning a national championship in UConn, and really proud of Kemba and his improvement. He every summer he's been working really, really hard, working his tail off, and he wants to be a great player. And he has that it factor where that you have to have if you want to be a great player. And his 3-point percentage has increased. Last year he was at 40% from threes, and I think that he's not done yet. He's continuing to work hard, and I think there's still room for him to get better.
Yeah, you bring up the 3-point percentage. I mean, over the last 2 years, he's at like 38, 39% on just like an outrageous number of attempts. Like he shot like 1,000 threes over the course of those 2 years after shooting like 1,000 threes over the course of his first 4 years. What do you attribute that improvement to? Because it's been like an 8 or 9 point bump in 3-point percentage. Like, is there anything that mechanically you can see him doing, or is it just like a true matter of work ethic?
Well, I think a lot of it is work ethic, and you're right. He shot close to 1,100 threes the last 2 years, and this past year he shot 40. The previous year he shot 37. So a lot of it's work ethic and repetition. We have a very good shooting coach, too, that has helped him, Bruce Kretzer. So, and Steve Hetzel from our staff has done a really good job with him. So, all of that combined, along with Kemba's inner drive to be a great player, all of that has led to his success and all-star berth this past year.
All right, the last guy I want to talk about here real quick is I got to give some love to Cody Zeller because I think that guy is just one of the most underrated players in the NBA. You guys caught a little bit of crap whenever you signed him to that 4-year contract extension, and I think that everyone in the league would agree now that, you know, he's a bargain at $12.5 million next year. Like, one of the best screeners in the league, has really improved as a defender. What did you guys spot in Cody when signing him to that extension that, you know, kind of made you think that this was going to be a good investment over the course of the next 4 years?
You know, Cody's one of those guys that you really appreciate if you see him day in and day out. And you're absolutely right. He's definitely one of the best screeners in the league. He plays both ends of the floor. You know, he doesn't take any plays off. He's got a high basketball IQ. He's a very good defender. You know, he's just, like you said, he's very underrated. He's a very good athlete. He can run the floor. You know, he's got a lot in his toolbox, and I feel like there's still room for growth for Cody. We love having Cody on the team, and just seeing him every day and his work ethic as well. We felt like signing him to an extension was the right thing to do because if he went into restricted free agency, we felt like, you know, somebody could throw a huge offer sheet at him, just to try and get him out of Charlotte.
Rich, do you have anything else you want to talk about on your team before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered a lot. I'm just looking forward to the season, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Rich, again, we plugged it at the top, but please tell the people where they can find your most important work, which is not on basketball, but it is on food.
Well, yeah, the new website is bigtimebites.com, and on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, the handle is @BigTimeBites.
Rich, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. This has been the Game Theory Podcast. You can subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. We'll be back next week at some point with some interesting recruiting stuff and some interesting basketball stuff. But again, thanks to Rich for taking his time before he goes on vacation. I mean, unbelievable guy. But thank you for listening, and we will talk soon. Bye.